And, something that as you went through your stories, and we were talking about yesterday, just how valuable COVID was to us. And that's a weird way to put it for listeners, probably, because there was a lot of devastation, not looking over that. But for me, I was still in a store during that time. So learned a ton. I know Craig, you did too. Mm-hmm. Ben, you did too. For those listening, even in Browns, because business has changed since COVID, for the good. It's bounced back in almost all our towns for sure. But, what did you learn during that time? What lessons did you learn? And it's hard to maybe even explain for new that came in after COVID, because you almost had to go through it, at least in my thinking. Like, it taught me so much because I was in it. Absolutely. And in the trenches and fighting for it. But what did that teach you? How was business different, if at all? Because it was such a big part of my story and all our stories here and everyone's story in Browns, I think it would be a disservice not to at least touch on that. I think we should. So,
yeah, COVID, in a weird way, COVID was so good for me. Mm-hmm. And I know, I've talked about that before, and again, not to just foo it away. It was real. It affected a lot of lives. It was devastating in a lot of areas. And, I caught it pretty early. Mm-hmm. I think I was the first one in the company to go out on a 10-day quarantine with COVID in September 2020. But truthfully, even the quarantine was life-changing for me, because it was the first time that I know of in my life that I'd ever spent 10 days completely alone. So just that alone was super powerful for me in a good way. Mm-hmm. Obviously you miss the store and you miss my wife, and she brought me food every day and whatnot, but that was powerful. So at store level, COVID just taught us so much. And I remember thinking, I think I even called Cammie on this maybe, or Steve, or because 100-year-old company, right? And almost everything I'd come across in my career before COVID, I had somebody to call. Some of these people were, our company went through the Depression and through world wars, and
that's how long we've been around.
Right? Yeah. Our company's been around for over 100 years, so our company's been through a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Never through a pandemic.
Right.
So to me, a little bit of the win, and for our generation, and especially us in the trenches, running the stores and dealing with the day-to-day customer base, it's a huge opportunity to go through something that no one else did. Did I lean on my dad for his optimism and positive silver lining and everything? Absolutely. I talk to him every day. Dennis Grummert, Mike Pape over at Rudolph's, and Mike and I got to be closer during COVID, chatted a lot. Ton of managers, of course, talked to Ben daily and you daily. But get to it, the difference maker for me was, and in my store was, working with Jazzy and Amanda. I made a commitment to them that we three were going to figure it out. Mm. And we three were going to take it on as the challenge of our career. And again, I was 50. The retirement brain started kicking in a smidge on me, with 10 years out. And little same old for me. I started falling into that. Still drive and still want to crush it, but then COVID hit, and the motivation factor of figuring it out and finding ways to do it different, do it better. You guys know I'm a huge Vaynerchuk fan, and he, mm-hmm. I took a lot from him and his approach on it. And
you read Stillness is the Key during that your quarantine, by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the quarantine book, but thanks for reminding me. The other big thing was the obstacle is the way. Yeah. So you're a Ryan Holiday fan, right? And my son actually turned me on to that. Mm-hmm. And right there, end of March, 1st of April, 2020. Listened to it because again, I'm not a library reader guy, but I listened to the book, and then I listened to it again, and it literally changed my brain and my mindset. And I still think about things inside of that book. And Ryan Holiday is one of my favorite. And that was Ryan Holiday's Obstacle is the Way was game changer. It was kind of my introduction to Stoics and Marcus Aurelius and some of the stuff that I continue to listen to consistently. And it's crazy, Marcus Aurelius stuff. You talk about old, right? I mean, that's like thousands of years ago. But the realness of some of the things they went through and the struggles they went through, some of the same stuff we go through now. So taking that obstacle on as a challenge and you're not going to beat me and we're going to figure out a way to win. That's what we did. And Amanda and Jazzy were completely on board. I think they would say this, they felt reassured. They felt more confident in what was going to happen and how we were going to come out of it purely because of the way we approached it. We didn't give it any more power than we needed to. We concentrated on our four walls, not the world. I'm not a news guy. I don't jump into the news. I don't watch the news. I know Dillehay says if it's not on Sports Center, I didn't see it. I don't
know anything about it.
So that was a conscious effort to turn off the outside noise, control the controllables.
That's huge.
The serenity prayer.
You talk about that a lot
is
too.
Powerful. Because like we talked about the weather yesterday too, right? It's same conversation. Like, what are you going to do about it? You're going to change the blizzard? No, you're going to go to work and you're going to call some people and you're going to sell some shoes. And so COVID, but making the commitment to Amanda and Jazzy, them working side by side with me, they never one time asked about money, asked about hours. We never talk about hours in our store with our top circle of people. You just, we don't pay by the hour. We pay them a very fair wage, salary, whatever you want to call it, and they work side by side. So they didn't worry about cutting hours or leaving early or coming in late. Zero of that. We committed and we worked and no way possible we did what we did in 2020 without Jazzy and Amanda right in there with me.
That's awesome. What about for you? What did COVID teach you? And also maybe tie into some marketing stuff through here, because the website it was birthed out of COVID, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And for the other two that went on during that time, Kate, Nick, who we're missing it here, Mark in Cedar Falls, that was a really cool reaction to it, because another good thing that came out of COVID was website. But then what did it teach you both about marketing, how it could build your business even during that time? Because it worked for me. I could speak to that too, but I want to hear from y'all on what that looked like.
It's all a blur, right? Like trying to think back on it. Similar story to Craig. I did have my one guy with me, Brett. He's been my kind of go-to person since the beginning of Des Moines. So we did make a same commitment. The two of us were gonna stay there and do it. When I think back on it, the first thing I think of is just how incredible it was to see like my population disappear. So how am I going to get sales when I can't even see a person? That was, and then my brain went directly to, well, that's uncontrollable. Try to get them through social media. We use social media because it was the most inexpensive form of reaching them. Because we knew, again, talking budget, you're not putting out a card in. we're not putting out a card in that time frame because you have zero reality of covering the expense of that. So we use social media to talk to them. We're typing back and forth to them through Messenger, selling shoes over the phone, and then it probably took too long to click. But it's like, why? It was clear that they still needed shoes, wanted to shop for shoes. So then I'm not a genius. That goes directly to, well, why don't we have a website? So that's how we took that free time to really dive deep into how we were going to make that happen. And our decision was we were going to make that happen by finding someone who can build it, who can run it, who can operate it, that's good in that world, and I will supply the shoe business or the shoe knowledge to her. So I think the very best thing that came out of COVID is DesMoinesShoes.com. And it's a huge part of my business today. It's, every month 15 to 20% of our overall volume comes from
That's awesome.
online customers.
I didn't realize it was 15 to 20%. I love that.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean store sales to store sales? I'm still hanging with you.
No, if you do that, you're still down.
All right. He already ran the numbers. He's making sure. Oh, that's great.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that partner. I'm good with that.
You're good.
Yeah. And so marketing specific, I mean, you can talk about what you do, in your company, and then also with Matthew, what you do, and maybe even speak to how, please speak to how that can relate to sod managers as well. I mean, of course they can hire your company, but then, maybe make some things from, I don't know how many clients Matthew wants to take on or whatnot, but,
right.
But, some
or how many I want to
share, or how many you want to share, because that's time away from Ben, and he's got some marketing to do. And but I mean, I've met both teams, both have a lot to offer. So
yeah. Kind of like Ben with the website. We took COVID time. Again, we had a little more time on our hands, although it was crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Texting and Facebooking and selling shoes, and we delivered a ton of shoes. You basically did anything you could do because our doors were locked and we couldn't have that customer flow. We were out for 5 weeks of customer flow. The numbers, like Ben mentioned earlier too, before we jump into marketing, I was thinking about finding the bottom. And, I think a lot of people went through this at their businesses and personally, mm-hmm. is how much money do I actually need just to live, right?
We talked about that yesterday. Yeah. It turns out I'm a $1.5 million nonprofit.
Yeah.
That's your break even.
That's
point,
you got to do 1.5 to break even.
To break even,
right?
And we barely did, but we did.
But you did, and for us, I just remember coming up with that April number. We're going against 220K April from April 19, and so 2020. We came up with that bottom number and found it. And then that was our goal. Like we wanted to hit this certain number just to break even, pay the girls, make my weekly wage. And that's it, no profit, no commission. And we beat it by 30%, which isn't, we were still down 50% for the month, but like Ben was talking earlier, finding those numbers, you don't pencil out a marketing budget when you potentially are going to do a fourth of the business on a month. So another thing COVID taught us is how important knowing your bottom, knowing your numbers, and probably how we could pull things in if we have to. We're both aggressive, we're both spenders, but if you have to, you can go the other way. Mm-hmm. So
there was a time frame where I started my marketing budget as a percentage, not like a estimated percentage. Like I literally pay my marketing team a percentage of my volume. I no longer pay for individual pieces or am on the hook for the performance of something. It is, and that was directly related to, well, I don't want to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. So if I'm only in for the amount that fits in my budget, I'm always safe. And then I can sit there and encourage him as in my marketing team, to push the envelope. And then it's a unique world, but it's very fun at the same time, because I'm like, I never worry about the cost of anything. We got to get a mailer out. We got to get the Valpak out. How much are we going to spend on Facebook? All this, like, just keep push, and put the budget on his end. And it's been great.
Yeah. Your mean, a couple of things. It's you, because you're Ben, and your relationship building ability, and you can put trust in people, and you can let go of some things, right, that some owners struggle letting go of.
Sure.
But Matthew's fantastic, and his team's fantastic, and I'm sure it just didn't get turned over to him immediately. You grew together, you learned what he could do, and then he found opportunity. If he grows your business, he's gonna do better also, right?
Yes.
So that it's super unique. But if you haven't chatted with Ben about that he could go on and how powerful that's been for his business. The time on COVID and the marketing piece for us was social. Like Ben said, that was the low cost go-to piece that we were doing. Everybody was doing Facebook at the time. Adam was a leader in it, right? He definitely, you were definitely crushing it in that world pre-COVID. Yeah. A lot of people were looking to you for what are you doing and how you doing it.
Momentum is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And it probably not talked about enough, but I had really good momentum going into COVID, so that definitely helped.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty cool how that played into it. Just momentum itself.
It's interesting how effective it was, not only advertising to them on Facebook, but communicating with them on Facebook. And if I have one hindsight regret, is like we had the mentality to where we couldn't wait for them to come back into the store. So we all but shut that off.
Yeah.
Other than answering comments or every now and then or something like
I think the consumer did too a little bit, right? I mean, it wasn't, because those days
it was the only way.
Constant.
Yeah.
I mean, it was every minute you had people you had to get back to and communication. But I think the other thing and why that happened also is we made that commitment with Jazzy and Amanda again, and we literally took our Facebook posting times 10. So we went from, probably at that time we were 1 a day, to 10 to 15 a day of posts, and Amanda took over the content from the gal that we had hired to do it, because Amanda, again, committed to being in the store every day. She knows the product better than anyone, and the customer, so she just kicked out product, and the rose-colored EVA Burke, right? That's going to always be the memory of how powerful social media, Facebook marketing was while we were closed. And we kicked it out on Facebook. We sold every single pair in 2 hours and closed, right? This is .com stuff that Ben's used to now. But for us at the time, that was, I don't think I'd ever done that in my career. So the other cool thing during COVID is Birkenstock was shipping. We could get product in 5 days. So then we load up, 120 pair of Rose EVA Arizona, kick it back out on Facebook, and I still believe, we missed the opportunity. We probably could have sold 300 pair, but then that's where our volume numbers were kind of hanging up there, and we were getting the phone calls and what are you doing, and some of those Zoom calls. I remember, what's going on in Fort Dodge, and it's not the shoe mecca of the world. I promise you that. It's
Dirty Dodge.
It was the commitment to social media. Our behind the scenes person is fantastic. She knows Facebook inside and out, which means I don't have to, because I trust her completely. And she was posting like crazy, spending a little bit of money on ads, but not much. Most of it was organic, and that's what got us to that 30% over our goal. April 2020 was social media, and then with doing that, we had several stores. Adam being one, came on with us, with the girls. We kind of created a marketing company with our Facebook team, and I think we got up to 12 or 14 stores we've worked with, and still currently are. 2.5 years later, we're working with a lot of stores and store owners and working their social media. So another that would not have happened without COVID.
Right.
I about guarantee it, because I would have stayed so.
Wouldn't have the time.
Exactly.
Like you
wouldn't have the thought time.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
And it's and what these guys speak to, and myself included, is on this, and this came up yesterday, was that 100% focus and attention on something. It's just better if you delegate that to a team, and you to Matthew. Just when people are able to, the right people are able to focus something on 100%, it just becomes better. And so why building a team is important as well is, again, go full circle back to the beginning of this and why it's so important to build a team. If you as an owner try to do everything, there's a lot of things in there that you'll maybe do at 30% capacity, and your business will never fully grow. Now, of course, you have to be able to sustain that volume and pay for these wages, but there's some of it too that some of it's almost reading the environment and saying, if I do this, then I know it will increase volume. There's some of that too. So not only volume comes and then hire, but also think, if I do this, how much in volume could it do, or do I think it can do? Because a lot of business ownership is risk taking.
Just as important, how much volume do I have to do?
Right. And it's all intertwined here. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where that realistic number matters. Like, you can be optimistic, you can push that and get that up there. But, April 2020, we were pretty sure we were not going to do that 2019 number with our doors locked. So then coming back into a realistic number, it's hard to come up with a number in April 2020, but same idea, same concept, is you have to budget to that potential number and be optimistic, but be real.
Right.